Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just landed in Samarkand for the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit. These are images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Samarkand, Uzbekistan for the SCO. This is a very important summit that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is participating in. What we can also tell you at this point of time is that India, of course, will be the chair of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization after the Uzbekistan summit. Crucial, important. In his departure statement ahead of the visit to Uzbekistan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that a number of major decisions for mutual cooperation are likely to be adopted in areas of trade, economy, culture and tourism. What is also very significant is the fact that this is the first time that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping will be in the same room as part of the multilateral meeting. And remember, they will be in the same room for a multilateral for the first time after the Galwan clash of May 2020. What we are being told that there is no bilateral summit, there is no bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping. There is also no bilateral with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif. And this we know through top sources in the government. There are, of course, a series of bilaterals. We are told that the Prime Minister will have a one-on-one with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and this is 15:40 local time, about 4 o'clock, a little after 4 o'clock India time tomorrow. He would also be meeting Ayatollah Syed Ibrahim Raisi, the President of Iran. This would be about 5:30 Indian Standard Time. And before that, there is also, of course, a bilateral with the President of Uzbekistan. So he's meeting the Russian President, the President of Uzbekistan and the President of Iran. The Prime Minister has been received in Samarkand. All eyes, of course, all eyes were on whether there would be a summit, whether there would be a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is the first time that Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares a stage with the Chinese President since the world's biggest military standoff began between India and China in May 2020. The 22nd meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, is being held in Uzbekistan. The ancient city of Samarkand is playing host to world leaders. Sources in the government say India wants restoration to the April-May 2020 situation at the line of actual control. Of course, that's easier said than done. But remember, China, after saying there is no question of pulling back from Petrol Point 15 in eastern Ladakh, there were multiple friction points. Pangong Tso, North Bank and South Bank, and we'll show you that in a map in just a moment from now. These multiple friction points from April-May 2020, either side of the Pangong Tso Lake, the North Bank and the South Bank. Then there was Gogra, there was Hot Spring, there was a clash at Galwan, PP14. There was a clash at Galwan where India lost 20 braves. China, according to Russian wire agency TASS, had lost more than 40 soldiers. China, of course, officially confirming only losing 5, including the commanding officer of the PLA battalion that was deployed there. But the fact remains, despite 16 rounds of talks at the level of co-commanders, talks that took place between foreign ministers of India and China, Dr. S. Jaishankar on the Indian side and Wang Yi on the Chinese side, and of course the bilateral border mechanism at the level of the Ministry of External Affairs. Multiple rounds of talks. It's only after 28 months of that standoff that China finally agreed, but only to disengage. And remember, these words are extremely crucial. Disengagement. What we are still looking at, whether that will happen, is de-escalation, reducing tensions between the two armies, and then ultimately de-induction. Remember, both China and India have about 50,000 troops each deployed in eastern Ladakh. China in our territory of Aksai Chin, and of course the Indian soldiers in eastern and southern Ladakh. 50,000 troops. What China did in diplomacy is considered virtually unacceptable anywhere in the world. A violation of a written agreement. India and China have a written agreement that not more than 3,000 troops, and that too only after informing the other side, would be brought to an area for a military exercise. Violating a series of norms and agreements between India and China. Since 1993 and 1996, China brought in 50,000 soldiers. I want to quickly cut across and bring in India Today's Paulami Saha for more on this. Paulami, now it's all but clear that there will be no summit between India and China at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and yet Prime Minister's visit is extremely crucial.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister has, of course, just landed in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. This is, of course, the 22nd meeting of the Council of Heads of States of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It is going to be a packed day tomorrow. There will be one restricted session and there will be an extended session with, of course, the heads of state. The Prime Minister, of course, will have certain bilaterals on the side, including with the Uzbekistan head of state. But while the Indian government hasn't confirmed about the other bilaterals, it is absolutely clear now that there won't be any sort of meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the SCO. But as has been confirmed by the Russian side already, we do expect that there will be a meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin on the sidelines of the SCO. And that is going to be extremely crucial. So as far as India is concerned, India, while there has been some amount of disengagement as far as India and China are concerned at the border and the standoff at the border at Goga Hot Springs, as you yourself been reporting, but that is not enough in terms of bringing about.
Stay with me, Paulami. Let's continue this conversation. We are now being joined by Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former Ladakh co-commander, on the broadcast. We are also being joined by Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash has served both in Pakistan and in China. Both our guests understand the Chinese mind very well. How significant, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Samarkand, especially now that we know that there is no bilateral, at least that's scheduled, between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping? The timings we have seem to indicate there is one bilateral with Russian President Vladimir Putin, one with the President of Uzbekistan, and one with the President of Iran.
Gaurav, good evening. SCO is very important for us. If it was important yesterday, it is even more important today, given the complexion of SCO. It is a one of its kind organization. Let me elaborate a little. It comprises of a powerful adversary. It's a powerful adversary-centric organization, a foe and friends. And it puts Indian diplomacy to great test. Our challenge is to prevent the adversary from becoming a foe, and to contain the mischief of the foe and build on the positives with the friends. So that is the kind of challenge, and it's also instinctively an anti-West organization. So I think our friends in the West should be very happy that a country like India is a member, which will bring about transparency, which will bring about moderation. And now we are assuming the presidency of SCO. So from all parameters, it is very important. And the role that India will play, the constructive role that we always play, the unifying role, the positive role, I think India is bound to play a bigger role in times ahead in SCO.
India is bound to play a bigger role, as you rightly pointed out. After Uzbekistan, the next summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization will be in India. And General Sharma, just before this summit, just before Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveling to Samarkand, China suddenly announces mutual withdrawal from Petrol Point 15. How do you look at it? After so many rounds, 16 rounds of talks, China withdrew from other friction points, and one because we did a QPQ operation. That's why they withdrew from both banks of Pangong. So, but withdrawing from 15, what's the indication, sir?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Gaurav. See, the decision of 15 may have come in recently. 16th round talks took about 50 days ago, and PP15 has been debated for over a year. So it is not that it has just come out suddenly at this juncture. It is on debate for quite some time, and it was a difficult decision to be arrived at as it has come out. But having said that, let us see what is the statement made by the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson after the PP15 disengagement was announced. She said, Ms. Mao, she said that there will be no status quo. She said clearly that it is India was the one which infringed on the line of actual control. So, having said that, and knowing very well that the Prime Minister of India and the President of China will be going to the SCO in Uzbekistan, she still came out with a statement which is a clear snub to us. So there is no rapprochement or change of heart or change of mind that the Chinese have shown at all in the course of this one. This disengagement that has come up despite the fact that there is no de-escalation, as you rightly pointed out. In fact, on the contrary, the habitat built in these areas and the infrastructure that has greatly come up gives an impression of a larger geostrategic pressure being built on us, despite the disengagements which have taken place, 4 or 5 of them on the line of actual control. So, is there any chance to say that there is a the trust is being built? I don't think there is any trust being built despite the disengagement.
There is no trust if China can tear documents, and I want to bring in our Foreign Affairs Director Geeta Mohan joining us from Ground Zero. Geeta, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived, and the schedule that we get, 3 bilaterals, none with China or Pakistan. What's the buzz on ground that you pick up, Geeta?
Well, absolutely no structured bilateral possible at this point in time, Gaurav, neither with China nor with Pakistan. Certainly the atmosphere is not right for the leadership to meet, because Gogra Hot Springs is not good enough. There needs to be complete disengagement and de-induction from the borders, and that is a message that could be sent across to China should the leaders come face to face in a room tomorrow. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed at a time when the informal dinner was almost ending, so he will not be taking part in the informal dinner. But it was timed in such a way that the less he gets to meet or is in a room with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif or President Xi Jinping, the better. Tomorrow is going to be very important and crucial, and they will come face to face. The question is, it will be a big news if they shake hands and talk, even if briefly so, but it will be a bigger news, Gaurav, if they do not, because that will be a strong message and signal as to where India stands vis-a-vis Pakistan or vis-a-vis China. Having said that, the 3 structured dialogues are very important.
Yes.
The meeting with Russia is going to focus on food and energy security, connectivity, Afghanistan, 2 very important areas that will be of prime focus, particularly with regards to Chabahar Port, when Prime Minister Modi meets with President Raisi of Iran.
Stay with me for a moment. So let's take this step by step. Let's stick to China for a moment, and let's stick to... So we have 2 adversaries in the same room with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, in diplomacy, everything is timed to perfection. The Prime Minister landing when the dinner is getting over, is that a very clear signal, especially to Xi Jinping?
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree with you and Geeta about that, because the optics with China are as important as the process. China is a past master in delivering signals and reading signals. Point is, a meeting for what? Prime Minister Modi had 2 informal summits, had I think 14 interactions with Xi Jinping, and what the result we got to know. Today the meeting cannot be about a broader relationship, it can only be about a disengagement. de-escalation. That the leaders cannot negotiate. That has to be negotiated by the experts.
Yes.
Now, you do not need the Prime Minister to tell Xi Jinping that he has to disengage. You know, Xi Jinping today wants to be seen to be meeting Prime Minister. It will be good for his image because he has picked up fights with any and everybody.
Yes.
I mean, they say you cannot quarrel with everybody, but that is what he has done. He is mired with internal challenges and external challenges. We have made it very clear, we are all for a dialogue, but you have to restore status quo ante. By meeting him, we only take pressure off him. Why should we do that? But courtesies, certainly, we are a civilizational nation, and picture in the delegates' lounge to exchange courtesies is fine. But again, optics being so important, imagine a picture coming out of Prime Minister smiling with Xi Jinping. In whose favor would it go? It would go in Xi Jinping's favor.
Yes.
So the optics are important, the picture is important, and the messaging is important. So I am gratified that India has taken the line that we have taken. China is a past master in taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. What have they done? They've done zilch.
They've done absolutely nothing. This disengagement actually creates a buffer zone. And General Sharma, this buffer zone actually benefits China. China will not have friction with Indian soldiers, because when there is friction, and I want to put out those pictures of Galwan, where according to Russian agency TASS, China lost over 40 soldiers. I believe your assessment is, the Indian Army's assessment is that China lost more than 40 soldiers, but be that as it may. General Sharma, what does disengagement actually achieve for India? What does it achieve for China?
So now all the 5 places that the disengagement has taken place, and I also include the area of Bottleneck and Raki Nala, which was the first disengagement that took place about 3 odd kilometers, which actually denies us patrolling to Depsang Bulge. And then you come on to Galwan, to Gogra, to Pegongsa North Bank, South Bank, and also now to PP15. If you say this is actually a systemic here, a whole area which has been created into not a line, but kind of a belt of actual control, a zone of actual control that actually denies us any access towards Exai Chin altogether to areas that we are patrolling. Of course, it also denies China some access to areas China was patrolling also across the buffer zone. So these buffer zones are actually temporary moratoriums and patrolling. It does not delineate the border. It does not demarcate the border. It leaves a little bit of confusion in each one of these areas. And with the trust deficiency, we will be so cautious whether the Chinese PLA is not infringing on the buffer zones at all. Because tomorrow, if Chinese infringe, they infringed in 2020. If they do the same in times to come, it will be even more problematic for us. So despite the buffer zone, there is going to be increasing amount of caution to be exercised by us in even the buffer zones. And would he try to do the same thing in central sector to create more buffer zones, or in Sikkim, or in Northeast? So, the whole issue is that with the forces located here, the tensions are not going to ease for quite some time to come. In fact, they get heightened by the buffer zones being created in this manner.
Okay. Ambassador, the situation remains, tension is high. Xi Jinping is looking for a 3rd term, end October, perhaps by some accounts he should be getting that 3rd term where he becomes chairman of everything for life, perhaps. Is there anything that can still stop it, given the state of economy in China, the state of real estate in China, the state of COVID in China, and perhaps global anger against China? Or is this only Western anger against China? Russia's firmly with China, as is Iran, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, barring India, is virtually in China's lap. Pakistan is a vassal state.
The answer is yes and no, Gaurav, because you see, China's footprint, let us talk of Central Asia. China's footprint in Central Asia is growing very rapidly, but it is bringing about economic development, but it is also causing indebtedness. It is also causing a dependence on China, which Central Asia does not like. Chinese embrace or the dragon's embrace does not come without a cost. And that is something everybody knows, because the ambition of Xi Jinping is formidable. So there are problems, lots of problems that Xi Jinping and China are facing internally and externally. But the problem with totalitarian regimes is that they can collapse tomorrow. They can continue for another 20 years. You do not know what is happening. We can only read the tea leaves. The short point is that Xi Jinping's position, he will, I think, will get the third term and the 30th term if he has life that long. But if it is going to collapse, it will be from within, because he has treaded on so many toes, citizens, corporations, colleagues. It is an unusual thing for a leader to pick up fights with everybody, and there is rumbling. When would the dots get connected? I do not know. But Xi Jinping is sitting on a tiger, and when you're sitting on a tiger, you know what happens.
Okay, we've seen that with other dictators, but General Sharma, the Chinese deployment in Aksai Chin, 50,000 soldiers, missiles, tanks, longer runways, missile silos, UAV bases, trains, more roads. Is that defensive or is that preparing for an offensive? In your view, what's China's long-term game plan in Aksai Chin?
So these are very difficult questions, and actually the best person to answer will be President Xi himself. But since you can't ask him a question, I think I'll make an endeavor. The fact of the matter is that there is no guarantee as to what's going to happen. But the way the Chinese are trying to fixate the line of actual control, or also establish the villages there and shift the population, probably this time is not right for him to undertake conventional operations. China, as the ambassador rightly pointed out, has got great internal woes. But then that cannot be guaranteed for a longer term perspective. By the time the 21st conference takes place or the 22nd conference takes place, this is another 10 odd years. President Xi has to cement his place into history. Now, he can't wait till 2049, which is what he has stated. 2049, he'll be 100 years old. So he has to actually achieve what he has to achieve in all fora and all issues in the course of next 5 to 10 years. So I don't know how much time we have, but I think there is a window for which we ought to prepare ourselves for the worst case scenario if it happens across the borders. The present situation actually demands us to keep a watch because these substantial forces, but we have to be prudent as to what's the quantum of force we require to place in each one of these sectors to counter the Chinese. We can't overdo ourselves. We can't do an overkill also, because the Chinese have got 50,000 people there.
So we can't do an overkill, but why are we rewarding him with so much business? And several commentators have written this, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, that China amasses 50,000 troops on our borders and we give him more business than our defense budget.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is a chink in our armor. I think that, if we were to really send out a message to China, we have to bite the bullet, which means that we have to bear the cost, because without bearing the cost, there is not going to be any pain to China. We'll have to tolerate pain ourselves, but the situation where we have $125 billion of trade with China and give them $70 billion surplus is untenable. I hope that through your channel, and it becomes a national mission, that we all step forward, boycott Chinese goods, and bring down the trades progressively, because unless you do that, a message will not go to China. We cannot continue having business as usual just because it is profitable for Indian companies and Indian consumers like me. I am also guilty as charged, but then we have to rise to the occasion and we have to put India first.
We do, but why aren't we doing this in your view, General Sharma? Because when 20 of our braves made the supreme sacrifice of their lives at Galwan, when Doklam happened before that, the Chinese design was very clear. China's not even hiding its intentions. You know, our veterans, our diplomats, we've been saying this from the rooftop. The writing is on the China wall that China is hostile to India. It will want to take over some of our territory, if not, you know, it's palm and five fingers of Tibet. And yet, our pushback seems to be restricted to military deployment. Or are we doing something else, in your view, General Sharma?
Gaurav, the point of view is that the Chinese are the second largest economy, and as the way they are going, they will cross United States even in nominal GDP in some time to come. They are a manufacturing nation. The value chains have been established in a manner that it's very difficult to get out of the value chain mesh that has been created. For example, let's say you buy solar equipment, photovoltaic cells, etc. They are all being manufactured in China. You want to buy something from some other country also, the value chains will be in a manner that finally the Chinese producers or manufacturers will produce and supply to some other company, some other countries, and it gets meshed up together and comes to us. To de-link totally from a second largest economy which is manufacturing based and which is export based is not going to be easy. So while we say that we must reduce from $125 billion to something more, downscale it down, it's not going to be so simple. And we have to plan item by item. I think we should say, okay, for example, furniture. Why should we buy furniture from China, which we tend to buy such a large quantity? So we should say, okay, let's detach the items like furniture which we don't buy. Certain things we may not be able to get out of so easy, and we require a longer time perspective to create the manufacturing base or some other external suppliers for us.
But do you even see this happening, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash? Because often in debates, when you have conversations, everyone says that we need more Maharana Prataps and, you know, Bhamashas, that kind of India first or nation first or self-respect before money kind of an attitude. But on ground, is that actually happening?
No, it is not happening. General Sharma, I completely agree with him. What he says is absolutely the right thing, that we have to start the process. You know, overnight we cannot traumatize the industry. I understand that. But do we need to buy more? You know, it is a national embarrassment as far as I'm concerned that in 2011 we bought much more than 2020. In 2020 we bought more than 2019. So we are in fact going in the opposite direction. I do not have a good answer. As I said, I myself am guilty of that. But if we mean business, we cannot be seen to be increasing trade with China. It is counterproductive. We have to slowly disengage. We have to find alternative sources of supplies. We have to get our own act together. And that is a chink in our armor, and that is also going to be exploited by China. But I hope that we will stay the course, because never in India has this kind of a position been taken as the present government and the Prime Minister has, for example, on the restoration of status quo ante. I think China is now looking at a different India, but I would like to see India becoming even more different, yes. A self-confident India which knows how to protect its interests. We are getting there, and I am sure we will be there sooner than later.
Fingers crossed. You know, India must keep our powder dry, because the writing, frankly, is on the wall, as both our guests are pointing out, that China is not friendly with India. China is desperately trying that India delinks the situation at the line of actual control with the overall relationship. And in the days and weeks ahead, we'll listen to what the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, has constantly been saying, that the two cannot be delinked. Is India actually in the process of adopting a harder line? We shall continue to debate that. For joining me here, General Sharma and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, many thanks. That is all I have for you on this India Today special broadcast.